sector and financial banking institutions to appreciate what our position is in the matter of CHRAJ over the 2.25 billion 2.25 billion bond. And on 29th December 2017, as many of you will recall, the Commission on Human Rights and Administrative Justice released its report on the investigations conducted into a complaint filed by Broja Jamfi, the petitioner, in the wake of the issuance of the infamous 2.25 billion bond in May 2017. Many of you will recall strenuous efforts and denials, albeit failed attempts, to argue that there was no adverse findings against the Minister for Finance, Ofori Atta, in the report. We have stated from the very beginning that the bond issue did not follow due process and seemed hurried. You know, they are a government in a hurry to accommodate some special, undetermined, unknown interests. It's significant for me to draw the attention of the Ghanaian public and to you members of the media, in particular to page 133, 134, 137, and 140 of the CHRAJ report. There are noted several breaches of constitutional and statutory laws, as well as regulations and official guidelines governing the issuance of the bond. These findings include, but not limited to, the following. We questioned, as you may recall again, the denomination of the bond, given the events that are described in the CHRAJ report and the substantive interests of the single non-resident investor. The minister had been emphatic about his denials of the issuance, but CHRAJ note that, and ladies and gentlemen of the press, I'm quoting verbatim from the CHRAJ report. This is what they note on the matter of the denomination of the bond. The 5-year, 7-year, 10-year, and 15-year bonds issued on April 2017 were domestic bonds, CD denominated, emphasis, CD denominated, and open for non-resident investors. But a statement issued by the Ministry of Finance on 3rd April 2017 misled the public into believing that the bonds were dollar denominated. So you can go back to the minister's own statement. So dollar denominated versus CD denominated. You know, when you have dollars and cedis, the weight is not the same and the value is not the same. The Minister of Finance, on realizing that the statement issued on 3rd April 2017 was inaccurate, removed it from its website. But at the time of this decision, the Minister of Finance had not yet replaced it with a more accurate statement. So when they noticed that there was conflict in their own statement between CD and dollar, they refused to apprise the public what the state of the matter is. Inappropriate use of issuance calendar. It is clear from the report that the attempt to rise the second quarter calendar for bond issuance to cover for inept issuance failed miserably. Was there an attempted cover-up? It's a multi-million-dollar question we pose. The Minister of Finance and Bank of Ghana used the traditional Bank of Ghana auction and tap-in, which is used for liquidity method, instead of the book building for medium-term bonds. Moreover, the tap-in was used for bonds that did not exist. Again, note the words of CHRAJ on this matter. The issuance calendar for the first quarter did not include the issuance of 7-year and 15-year bonds, the trading of which concluded on 31st May 2017, which is within the first quarter calendar period and not the second quarter calendar. On receipt of the second quarter issuance calendar, at 12:31 p.m. on 30th May 2017, I'm continuing the quote from the CHRAJ report. The Bank of Ghana made announcement to the public on the reopening of 5-year and 10-year bonds with an indication that bids must be submitted electronically through the auction model not later than 2 p.m. on Thursday, March 30th, 2017, and settlement will be on Monday, April 3rd, 2017. Again, CHRAJ notes, this contradicts the Bank of Ghana own rules, requiring the Bank of Ghana to announce periodically, but not less than a week before an auction, the amounts and specific details of the financial instruments available. In this case, the 5-year, 7-year, 10-year, and 15-year bond at the next auction and their maturity profiles. Another matter of interest to you and to the Ghanaian people, particularly in the financial market, is related to the breach of period of issue. Again, Bank of Ghana Ministry of Finance breached the time required for notice, a lapse that we cannot excuse. We know that the two institutions, as well as their joint book runners, bond advisors and officials, had been using the procedure since 2015. Again, the Commission on Human Rights and Administrative Justice notes, and I quote, in terms of the 7-year and 15-year bonds, the Bank of Ghana gave only 1 day notice to the market on the availability of the 7-year and 15-year bonds prior to the commencement of trading, instead of 2 weeks required for new products under the Bank of Ghana guidelines. So where is the transparency that we were promised? Matter of parliamentary approval. CHRAJ also ruled that the minister did not comply with Section 56(1) of the Public Financial Management Act 2016, Act 921. Besides the provisions of the new Act, the CHRAJ position is justified by the fact that prospectus and processes used in 2016 should not have been used to support the new categories of bonds. CHRAJ notes, and again I quote, the terms and conditions of all government borrowings shall be laid before Parliament and shall not come into operation unless the terms and conditions are approved by a resolution of Parliament in accordance with Article 181 of the Constitution. So again, a breach of the Constitution and a breach of a very important legislation governing discipline in public financial management, which is the Public Financial Management Act. Again, be told that this important legislation is part of the hereditary institutions of the new government. We are still waiting for their Fiscal Responsibility Council and what they promised to do as an improvement to this particular legislation. But at least we bequeath to them as a government a Public Financial Management Act, operational, with defined time limits. Graciously, the report further notes that additional information about the bond issuance was sent to investors before the Ministry of Finance released the second quarter issuance calendar. So some favoritism, some had early notice than others. That should not be the case, and that should not be the practice. Was this leak meant to benefit some other persons prior to an auction that also curtailed the period of notice? Note also that some JBRs and some advisors were excluded from the issuance of 1 or 2 parallel bonds. So it means that there was a targeted group they were working to. Therefore, we are not surprised that it ended with one person taking 95% of what was clearly issued. Was a prior communication and discussion of terms and conditions, given that the communication may have been specific with respect to bond details. Matter of conflict of interest. On the issue of conflict of interest, we are surprised that the minister and surrogates continue to portray complete exoneration by CHRAJ when the commission found, and I quote for emphasis, because we've heard comments from members of government, including Office of the Attorney General, on this particular issue bordering on conflict of interest. The finance minister's extensive interest in the securities market through shareholding in several companies that operate within the sector, some of whom were contacted by the bookmakers on this particular bond, always raises the potential for conflict of interest. So we are saying that the potential does exist, and that is also noted by the Commission on Human Rights and Administrative Justice. We also note that on matter of declaration of assets, matter of great concern, is a staggering revelation in the CHRAJ report that the Finance Minister, Honorable Ofori Atta, concealed his interest in a number of financial institutions in his asset declaration forms filed after his appointment. According to the CHRAJ report, documents from the Registrar General's Department show clearly that the Minister, Honorable Ofori Atta, was a shareholder in Databound Financial Services Limited, Databound Brokerage Limited, and Databound Financial Holdings Limited. However, the Finance Minister failed to state this in its asset declaration forms presented on 12 May 2017 to the Auditor General, according to CHRAJ, that he had shares in these last three companies that I mentioned. And again, emphasis CHRAJ, specifically the Commission in page 120 of the report. So those who have read the report half-heartedly or halfway may want to appreciate this issue. It is observed that the respondent had other assets which he did not disclose in his assets declaration form. They include his interest in Databank Financial Services Limited and Databank Brokerage Limited. This constitutes a willful breach of Section 7 of the Public Office Holders Declaration of Assets and Disqualification Act 1998, Act 550, and also contravenes Section 51 of the Criminal Offences Act of 1960, amended, as I believe, with the matter of deceiving public officials. The report quotes the meaning of government securities from the Bank of Ghana guidelines as follows, page 11 of the CHRAJ report. Government securities, bills, notes, and bonds constitute direct, unsecured, and unconditional obligation of the government of Ghana. The principal and discount interest on government securities will be charged on the consolidated fund. So when the securities are done, it has implication on debt. The question is whether all the bonds, 5-year, 7-year, 10-year, and 50-year, that constitute 2.25 billion in the two issuers meet these conditions. The next paragraph will show why the minority in Parliament continue to harbor and share with you our concerns on this matter. Documents supporting the bond issue, you recall that we invited him to Parliament and we requested him to furnish the House, Parliament, with the terms and conditions for the issuance of the bonds as required by the Constitution. In his appearance before Parliament in 2017, he defiantly noted that this information was market sensitive and insisted that it could not be disclosed. So in Ghana, you can use market sensitivity as an excuse not to be transparent, even in a matter of issuance of bond. We now know from the CHRAJ report that the documents supporting the bond issuance were in respect of the so-called tap-in. The 2016 prospectus issued under the auspices of the former Minister of Finance, Honorable Setekwe, and Bank of Ghana guidelines for its auction. Since these documents are already in the public domain and more crucially satisfy the BOG definition of government securities, what did the minister mean by market-sensitive information? Because this previously was made known and the guidelines of Bank of Ghana known. Terms and conditions. Immediately after the bond issuance, we drew attention to allegations that some or all of the bonds may have terms and conditions relating to issuance or maturity that could be unprecedented, harmful to public interest, and therefore not likely to meet the BOG definition for government securities. Yet they were not forthcoming with the details that we requested for. The minority would like to call on CHRAJ to release any further documents that may be in its possession to satisfy or deny this public curiosity. In the absence of any such additional documents being in the possession of CHRAJ, Parliament or CHRAJ must compel the Minister of Finance, Bank of Ghana, to release them to the public. Matter of virtual private placement, as noted earlier, we have the view that the petitioner and the minority use the word virtual advisedly, its meaning being clear. We did not seek to state categorically that there was a private placement. We will draw the conclusion or otherwise when we are assured that all documents relating to these public bonds are in public domain. So I will make the distinction and clarity between the private issuance and the public issuance. Nonetheless, we will still stand by our cautious assertion that the bond issuance to Franklin Templeton and most likely others was close to a private placement as explained by the Minister of Finance, the Bank of Ghana officials in the CHRAJ report and the JBR. As noted earlier, we know from the CHRAJ report that some investors had privileged knowledge of the bond issuance before the official notice became public. Again, where is the fairness in this particular matter when others have prior information and others do not have, other than to serve a certain narrow parochial interest? Secondly, given that some primary dealers and also joint book runners had prior undisclosed relationship with investors who put in bids, did any prior contact involve a discussion of terms and conditions for the issuance? For confirmation, CHRAJ needs to follow the trail of communication and movement of funds closely to settle these questions. Appearance of conflict of interest. We've already quoted CHRAJ on the matter of likely conflict of interest by the Honorable Minister. In addition, we draw broader attention to some matters relating to this matter as concerns continuing relationship between Trevgan and Franklin Templeton and Data Bank Enterprise Group, as well as staff of the latter who are now doing official government business. If you go to the Ministry of Finance now, you have about a mouthful of former officials of Data Bank and Enterprise taking over the work of directors at the Ministry of Finance, who have been cowed into some quiet submission because they cannot talk. We can. And we are saying that that is not an acceptable way to run a country and to run a ministry. You inherited the ministry with dedicated directors trained in those particular areas. There are over 16 ex-Data Bank Enterprise employees who are firmly embedded in the Ministry of Finance and some of its agencies. The Ghanaian people must be questioning this. Time ago, we had government of friends and family members. So this time is government of who? Coming from the same entity or from the same background and enterprise. That is right. It was wrong yesterday. Where they involved in the bonds, since we are told in the CHRAJ report that some of the JBR and PDs acting for the ministry issued an invitation to Enterprise Data Bank. Were they beneficiaries of the communication that went out to some investors prior to the official release? That's why we are saying that there is some conflict of interest, even in terms of communication. Some having prior notice, others not having, others knowing earlier than others. Timing is important in this transaction. The Salam Group transaction. Third, we know some months back that shortly after the bonds issuance in May 2017, June 2017 to be precise, Salam Group of South Africa sold its insurance interest in Enterprise Group to Black Star Holdings Limited. We are told in the statement relating to the transaction that Salam will continue to have a presence in Ghana. We already know the involvement of the minister in Enterprise, so we will not belabor the point. So you see a relationship between Salam and Enterprise Group, and then you see the minister and deputy minister deeply involved in this. Also know that the Deputy Minister of Finance had or has interest in Black Star Holding Limited. The Honorable Dubai also related to Leapfrog, another firm mentioned in the statement. The statement emphatically describes the quotes Trevor Fan as a chairman of Enterprise Group, yet they say we shouldn't raise conflict of interest in this matter. No less a person than Mr. Kelly Gajapo, the CEO of Enterprise Group and current member of the board of the Bank of Ghana. So even if you go to the Bank of Ghana today, we will soon initiate an action in court to question the composition of the board of the Bank of Ghana, because one of them runs the pension scheme of the Bank of Ghana and is serving on the board of the Bank of Ghana. That engenders conflict of interest. We are following that closely, and we think that the Ghanaian people must, in the name of transparency, support us in this enterprise, especially those of them still serving on that board and playing other role in terms of the management of their pensions. Mr. Gajabu rescues himself from government business involving the Enterprise Data Bank. It's a question we are posing because he's here and there. So does he excuse himself when matters are being considered? And we are saying that that is a major issue of conflict of interest, whether or not Data Bank and Enterprise Group, the Ghanaian people support us to ask the question, do not have any dealings with the Bank of Ghana. They do. And if they do, one of them sits on the board of the Bank of Ghana. We therefore call on the Honorable Minister to do what is honorable and accept the findings of CHRAJ and bow out and resign honorable as Minister for violating the laws of Ghana pursuant to relevant section of Act 550. The complaint was made. President Nana Danko's cronyism is now manifest. Nepotism is manifest. Members and friends in government manifest. Rather, he should take what is appropriate to ensure that he subjects the finance minister to the full rigors of the laws. He's not above the laws of Ghana like any other person. We used to have noticed that in the event that the President Nana Dankwa does not exercise appropriate judgment, will initiate an action of censorship against the minister. we in the minority feel strongly vindicated with the report. So for those of you who have read the report well, go back to it. Don't just go to opening paragraph and some decision and come to a conclusion. If there are breaches of the law itself, there are Public Financial Management Act, constitutional provisions. We are saying that all of us must uphold the laws of Ghana, including the Minister for Finance. The government and its agencies, Flagstaff House, Bank of Ghana, Securities and Exchange Commission, Public Services Commission, Head of Civil Service must take steps to curtail or eliminate the grip of enterprise and data bank group on government businesses. They are all around. Everywhere now is enterprise and data bank. If you go to the Ministry of Finance, there are alarming numbers about it. Parliament will revisit the issue. We will appropriately, as we've stated in the report, consider other matters relevant to this business. So, ladies and gentlemen of the press, this is our breakfast for you this morning. Our position on the CHRAJ report. So don't go and do half-hearted reports and half-hearted reading of the report and come to the conclusion that there is nothing in the CHRAJ report. There is. The Public Financial Management Act have been heavily breached. So it's honored in breach. And the Constitution in breach. There are still matters bordering on conflict of interest, the dominance of enterprise and data bank at the Ministry of Finance and other agencies are related to the matter with the Bank of Ghana. We'll be happy to answer your questions if you have any. Thank you very much for your kind audience. And colleagues, let me thank you all for coming to support us. We will appropriately be responding to the President when he comes to his state with the State of the Nation address on the 8th. We will address you again on the 9th of February to respond to him and respond to the press conference that he held with the Ghanaian people, to which he shared with you unacceptable, inaccurate, misleading facts about the management of the economy and the governance of the country. We will, on 9 February, we have said that we are a credible, constructive opposition. We've shared with you facts. These are not words of Honorable Atufosin or the Honorable Muntaka, Honorable Adongo or Alaji Kolenzauda. These are words from the Commission on Human Rights and Administrative Justice, a creature of the Constitution. So, media questions. The whip will help me so that we can be in the chamber shortly to support today's business.
Dear colleagues, as you may know, we are supposed to be in the chamber by 11:15. It's already 11:20. So, if we could just take some, maybe 3-4 questions. Yes, gentlemen. You mentioned your name and the media you are coming from.
Good morning. My name is Duka from CTFM. First question. We know that when this matter came up, the minority took steps to file applications or petitions to various international bodies. The United States Securities and Exchange Commission, for instance, and then the similar body in Luxembourg. What is the status of these petitions? That's one. And then two. This may be related to this,